Welcome to Edged Mindset. I am your host, Carter. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the presentation. We're going to be talking about, oh man, I messed it up. We're going to be talking about the Microtech ANAX or ANAX. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Everybody says that. I promised myself I wouldn't say not sure how you pronounce it, and I did it anyways. Microtech ANAX folding knife. This thing's pretty cool. So it gets the thumbs approval up from me. If you don't want to hang around for the whole video as I go in depth with specs, usage, features, personal opinion, if you just want a quick take, the quick take is this thing is awesome. It's one of my favorite knives of this year so far, well, I guess we're at the end of the year, so that's a bold statement. Let me retract that. When I say year, I mean past few months when I've kind of really focused on knives again. So this is one of my top picks of the ones that I have received recently. Let's say that. Really like this thing. However, it's not for everybody. This is not a hard use utilitarian type person. By hard use, I mean somebody that works on a farm and he's like, I need a knife to cut bales of hay. I mean, you can do that with this, but this isn't really the target audience. This is more of the knife enthusiast collector. Now, that being said, this is a fully capable knife, and we'll get into that here in a second. I'm just saying there's better options out there. If you're really looking for something to throw in your pocket, use on the job, use daily for cutting tasks, there's probably better options. This can do it, but there's better options. So a couple things I want to point out. Look at the box. Look at the box. Oh my gosh, the second I saw this, if you saw the unboxing video of this, it blew me away. I think, so Microtech does different boxes for kind of, similar to Benchmade, right? Black label, blue label, gold class, or class is what they call it, black class. Microtech does the same thing. So they have their standard box, and then they've got, here's an example here, the Signature Series, which is the black box, and then they've got this guy, which is the We Have Outsourced to China box. And I think that's cool. It's got a cool dragon around it. It's got the gold. It's got the Chinese style motifs. I think it's cool. I think it's a very creative way to illustrate that this is a non-US knife. Some people complain that the knife itself doesn't say made in China. It does have RIKE's logo though, so if you know who RIKE is, you know it's made in China. I don't have a problem with that. I would rather, let's change this. See, look how easy this is. This is cool. I'll talk about this in a minute. Some people hate this. I think it's cool. But this whole knife is, like I said, like to me, this is not a, how realistic of a EDC knife is this, and more of a, it's just a cool knife. Some people are mad that it doesn't say made in China on the blade, but it doesn't say made in US either. So they're pretty transparent that this is an outsourced knife. This is not produced in the US. Previously, this knife was only available as a custom way back in the day. And I almost got one, but I could never get my hands on one, and then they disappeared. Let's do some specs while I'm blabbing here. Like 3 3/4 inch blade. Overall length is a little over 8.5 inches. So decent sized knife, but definitely not a tank. Very slender handle. You have full titanium handle here, and it is an integral, meaning it is not two pieces of titanium screwed together. It is a solid, thick chunk of titanium that is completely milled out, cut out, and turned into a handle. Has some decorations on the back here as well. Now, integral knives were really gimmicky. In my opinion, they were gimmicky when they first kind of came out, and they're kind of cool because they illustrated manufacturing prowess and capability. Personally, I don't necessarily care for them. The only benefit I see to them is a cleaner look because you don't have these screws holding it together. You could argue it's a simpler construction. However, it creates some other issues. For example, the lock bar insert has to come in from the outside. It's a little more difficult to maintain and clean because you can't separate the scales and just take everything apart. You've got to kind of finagle it all in together. A little harder to put back together. Easier to take apart, I guess. You could make that argument. So by and large, the integral part doesn't really do much for me. I'm kind of glad I have one. This is the only integral that I have right now. It's kind of cool to have one, but I guess my point is I don't really seek that out. I don't necessarily see that as a feature. It's kind of cool if that's your thing. But for me, it's not really all that amazing, or yeah. It does look cool though. So titanium, and the other thing that's cool about these handles is they are contoured. They are not just flat. You can see how they bulge out right here and kind of come down. It's those kind of details that are really impressive, right? Because the easy thing to do, or the easier thing to do, would just be to have this be a flat plane, especially when you've got carbon fiber inserts that are also contoured along with the handle. And this example is done very, very well. No major gaps. There are no rough edges. Now there are a few, there's this little guy. I'm not even sure exactly what's going on over here. There's something going on. I haven't really figured it out. Something's like kind of sticking up a little bit. I could probably sand or scrape that down. So it's not like top tier perfection, but it's pretty dang good. Looks pretty dang good. There are a few parts that stick a little prouder than others, like super smooth over here. You got a little bit of a ledge on this side, but this is a mass production knife. So in my opinion, executed perfectly well. This has proprietary screws. Some people don't like that. I think it's great. I have enough knives with regular Torx. I like the look of these, and I'm like, if you're gonna do proprietary screws, have them look cool, and these definitely look cool. Plus, you get the tools in the box, so you can take these apart, no problem. You don't have to spend any extra money. So in my opinion, there is no reason to complain there. Ooh, let's get a weight. I'm all over the place, guys. I got some general measurements, and I skipped the weight. So we've got the weight with the lanyard, 5.3 ounces. Not too bad in my opinion, just over 5 ounces for a full titanium. Fairly large in terms of length. This is not a small knife. If we compare it to the Para 2 here, you can see it's a little bit bigger than the Para 2, obviously heavier because it's got titanium scales and all that goodness. Man, this thing just looks cool. Look at the profile on that. I'll talk about that in a minute. Pocket clip, milled titanium with a giant ceramic ball in there. Some people, once again, some people don't like this. I love it. I love it. And I'm not even talking purely from a ease of use type thing. You got to remember, my perspective is maybe a little bit different than others. I've got plenty of knives with regular, easy to use pocket clips all over the place. Milled ones, regular ones, like all over. So when I see something different, even if it is just visual, and maybe I sacrifice a little bit of ease to have something cool, I'll take something cool, man. I want something cool. You've got this design language here that mimics the back here. Really cool. Pivot collar, anodized titanium. Overtravel, anodized titanium. Just a beautiful knife. Really, really like this. And the blade. Let's talk about the blade. M390. Beautiful. What is this? I guess you could call this a, I don't know, drop point, clip point. Kind of fits in between there. I guess it depends on how strict your definition is. A slicer, not super thick stock, and it is a long, wide blade with a big primary bevel. This thing is a Cutter Supreme. The secondary bevel's a little shallow, though, which Microtech tends to do. Makes it look really nice, in my opinion. A shallow secondary bevel makes it look really nice. The edge won't last quite as long as if it was a little bit wider, but it's quite thin behind the edge, so couldn't get it too much wider. This one features a bead blasted finish. Once again, people complain about that due to rust issues. I've not experienced that, but I also haven't really been sweating too much. I've received this in the fall, so it hasn't been too hot. So I can't really say. The issue there, M390 is pretty good against rust. However, when you bead blast it, it just creates a gateway for rust to get up in there. Same with the channel here, the opening channel. It's also bead blasted there. The flats are satin. You've got a nice rounded spine right there. You've got beautiful jimping. A lot of little details like that. You've got more impressive jimping here with a little bit of a thumb ramp. This thing feels really good. Now, ergonomics, it's amazing. I've got big hands and it still feels really, really good. It's got a very thin, narrow handle that just wants to be in your hand, and it is really, really nice. It's running on bearings. The action is buttery smooth. Lockup is perfect. There is no lock rock. It is 100% solid. There is no left to right. The example I got was dang near perfect. Like I said, the only thing is maybe you could argue this little section going on up here, whatever that is. But that is very minor. Now, the only thing I could truly somewhat complain about is the detent. It's got a pretty shallow detent, and it's that way for a reason. So that's why it's difficult to complain about it. This knife does not have a particularly great opening mechanism. In particular, I really struggle with thumb flicking because of the size of my hands, and I think it's not just my hands, I think it's everybody. I just cannot grip this without squeezing on the lock bar because the handle is so narrow. I just cannot keep my fingers off there, and because there's not a super definitive ledge or hole, I just can't really get the leverage to open it this way. My preferred method is the spider flick. On the other hand, if you are a lefty, I just can't do it because my left hand sucks. If you're a lefty, you'll have no problems at all. In fact, you can slow open this. Super easy to open when you are not on this lock bar. And it does kind of make me wonder, okay, I shouldn't talk about this. I'm going to divulge into the, I wouldn't be opposed to knives being reversed. Does anybody else agree? Like a lot of knives, I'm not left-handed, but I kind of prefer to open them with my left hand because of the lock bar thing. It makes more sense. I don't squeeze the lock bar. There's no interference there. Everything functions better. I don't have to worry about finger placement or putting my hands on the pocket clip. And I can close it just as well as this way. Why don't we have more knives where the lock bar is on the right side for righties? I'm kind of a little bit jealous when it comes to frame locks on left-handed people because to me, it almost seems like it makes more sense to have the lock bar facing you in the left hand. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. Anyways, little bit of a tangent there. Sorry. So the opening is the only thing that kind of is a little bit off. The front flipper capabilities, I'm getting better at it. It's definitely not the most intuitive, but I am getting better at it. So those are the two main ways I'd recommend opening it if you're right-handed is the spider flick. That's my favorite. Works every time. Super good. Or the front flip. You can do slow or you can do fast. But the front flipper on this is not necessarily best in class for that. So keep that in mind. The detent is weak, but it'll hold the blade. The blade is not super heavy. So as you can see, it's tip-up carry. So as long as you have it in your pocket where it's sitting in the back, you'll be fine. It's not that weak. See, I'm shaking it. Finger is on the pocket clip. It's not opening. I've got to really give it, a decent amount of muscle and it'll fly open. So detent has no play. Everything is just super tight on this. RIKE Knives really hit it out of the park in terms of manufacturing. Now, Lanyard, I like it. I don't have anything else like this. No other knives that I'm aware of has any kind of system like this. It's a rigid cord lanyard that you screw in the back. A lot of people take it off. They think it's dumb. I get that. I understand that. But for me, I have enough boring knives that don't have something like this. So if I have a knife that has something odd or strange, I want to let that freak flag fly. I want to embrace it. I have plenty of boring, regular titanium frame locks. I've owned them for a decade. I've seen them all, so when something's a little different, I'm in. I am all in. That's just me. I know some people aren't, man. Same with cars. Like, I bought my truck. I wanted bright blue. I'm sick of seeing gray, black, white. And then even when it does have a color, like red, it's like a muddy red. Like there's no color, there's no excitement, there's no energy in anything anymore, it seems like. So when a company produces something that looks striking and has cool features, even if they are a little annoying or don't really make sense, I'm in, man. I am 100% in. I am going to rock this thing with this goofy lanyard. The only difference is if I do the pokey spiky one or the ball one. I'm going with ball for now. Yeah, ball. Okay, so that is it. That is the Microtech ANAX. It is a collaboration, or no, it's not a collaboration. It's a Microtech knife, Microtech design, and I have this out of frame. OEM partner is RIKE Knives in China. My example is really, really good, 100% worth the money. And I'm really glad that they produced this knife. And at the price point it's at, I know some people are mad that Microtech is outsourcing to China, but to me, it allows people to get a really cool knife design in their hands at a much more affordable price than the Custom, which was really expensive when it was available. Now it's even insanely expensive because it's secondhand, right? They haven't produced it in many, many years. So being able to get this is really awesome. Very unique design on this knife. Really good design language. I like it a lot. All right, guys. Woo! I am out. 16 minutes. This is a video. See you guys on the next one.